Are you trying to render the human body with boxes, but it always comes out looking like a wooden plank with abs?
Well, congratulations, MRD is here to fix that. So this video is not gonna be a comprehensive anatomy guide. It's not gonna be teaching you all of the muscles. I just wanna give you guys a few tips on how to give your drawings a little bit more sauce. Let's start out with a stack of cylinders that represent the human torso. Now let's take these cylinders, as I described a couple of videos ago, and turn these into boxes. Clean it up a little bit, but it really doesn't matter. These shapes are not sacred. You shouldn't have to sit here for 5 minutes drawing perfectly perspective gridded boxes every single time that you want to draw people. Let's start here at the top cylinder, or the top box, I should say. What is this? If you said a rib cage, you're wrong, okay? This is not a rib cage. This is a box. The important thing to know is that no matter how many lines I draw on top of this box, and I can draw abs and I can draw as much as I want, there is nothing that I can do to this box to make it look like a rib cage or make it look like a torso. I know that this is going to sound complicated, but it's going to sound a lot more complicated than it actually is. This is not a rib cage. This is a three-dimensional space that the rib cage occupies, which means this is a representation. This is a metaphor. These are just guidelines.
In other words, this is a quick lay-in to establish perspective. You haven't even started drawing the anatomy yet.
So what do you have to do? You have to place that rib cage inside of this box. Now we can come out and draw the egg shape in the right perspective. Now we have a rib cage, right? That we can then start coming in and defining the landmarks of. I know this doesn't seem important to you right now, but as we move through the video, this is going to start becoming very important. This is also not a pelvis. This is the three-dimensional space that the pelvis occupies. Now, it just so happens that there's a lot of clean mappings from a box to a pelvis, so it's a lot better if you just draw this as a box, just because if you draw the whole bucket mechanism, you know, it's a little bit needlessly confusing because a lot of that is covered up by the surface anatomy anyway. This should be good enough to represent a pelvis. This is your greater trochanter, which is the top of your leg. The other one would be over here, etc. A lot of you guys, what you'll do is you'll draw the boxes and then just draw the anatomy on top of the boxes. You're not supposed to draw the anatomy on top of anything, right? You're supposed to draw the anatomy inside the boxes. Once we've placed this in here, let's just place a few more landmarks. Let's just place the shoulders, because they are landmarks that help us out. The collarbones, which are kind of like bicycle handles that round around the opening of your neck. Let's review. Tenet 1, boxes are not anatomy. Boxes are representational guidelines that you draw the anatomy inside of. 2, the center line. There's a reason why I drew this in a 3/4 angle, because when you're looking at someone straight on, it's not as important to adhere to this. But I think that when you see it from a 3/4 view, you're going to understand what I mean, and it's going to improve all of your drawings, regardless of what pose that they're in. I could take this, right? And I can treat this center line like it's golden, you know, like all of my anatomy is going to just hinge on this center line, and I can draw the anatomy like that if I choose to. But the important thing to understand is that anatomically, no one's center line looks like this. The center line curves around the form of the body. So once we're in here, I always treat it like it's a curve, right? So I curve this anatomy, right? This is the space where all of your organs are. So I like bowing it out a little bit just to show you like, hey, I know the organs are there. Not every artist does that. I know that David Finch, like when he describes like all of this in shade, he'll like put this all in shade. It's kind of because like there's a sunken view, so it'll go in kind of like that, so it makes it really like snatched and really shrunk in. I just don't draw it like that, but if you would like to draw it like that, you can. So once again, we're curving the anatomy. If I'm drawing somebody muscular, of course I might just bring it straight down like this, but the center line also allows you to do something like this, right? If I want to draw somebody a little fat, you know, this is more than what my center line look like. You can come out and draw the center line like this. This is what gives the anatomy a lot of life, the center line, right? So I'm going to keep it muscular. And again, a lot of people say like, hey, you should draw different body types. I do draw a lot of different body types. It's just that it's a little bit easier to describe certain anatomical details when I draw someone really muscular. So that's the only reason why. Now, again, we're already approaching something that looks a lot more anatomically correct. Let me pull out these arms just so I can show you how the overall anatomy will react to them, right? So again, we have the deltoid, chest anatomy radiates out from under there.
Now, do you notice how I placed that curve of the chest right on that line that separates the front plane from the side plane? That's a landmark that a lot of artists adhere to. Depending on how you drew your box, the side plane typically starts where your pec curves.
Same over here, deltoid, chest anatomy pokes out like this. Now again, if you want to draw someone really muscular, what I do with the chest is I bulk it out a little bit because it makes it seem like, oh, there's volumetric muscle here that then makes it look a little bit bigger. So you can do it like that, right? This little Ronnie Coleman sketch that I did, I was just practicing off of Pinterest. He had a very pronounced center line. Now again, don't put it all the way out here because then it look like you guys did it, okay? So don't do that. But just bring it out a little bit. It might look weird to you, but this is just my style, right? You don't have to draw it like that. You can draw it a little bit flatter. But the thing that I'm trying to get across here is that you should never draw this flat. This is all going to be predicated on perspective. Understand that I'm drawing this cylinder in space, right? So this is a little basic tenet of drawing in perspective. In this perspective, I'm basically looking at someone eye to eye. Drawing a little horizon line here, which if you want to know what this means, this is just your eye level. So some of you guys didn't know that. Your horizon line is basically just your eye level. So you could put the horizon line down here. That means that you're about crotch level. You could put it right here. That means you're about chest level. But here, I'm drawing it like I'm eye level. So notice how I'm looking down at all of these cylinders. The important thing to know is if I'm looking down at this anatomy, the chest isn't going to look like that, right? The chest, the abs aren't going to be situated like so. My anatomy isn't going to be curving that way. You have to obey the perspective. So imagine you're looking down at the cylinder. My chest is going to curve downward slightly. My ab anatomy is going to curve downward slightly. Let's say the eye level is all the way down here. I draw my cylinders again. Then when you're drawing your chest anatomy, now it's going to curve up. You see? So now when I'm rendering my anatomy and I curve my abs around like this, it's just completing this illusion. So always take into account the way that the anatomy wraps around the figure. And if you need a better representation of what that might look like, I have something for you. Y'all just wait there. I'm going to bring something back that I brought back in an old video a long time ago. Welcome back, paper towel roll, fresh from the trash can. Do you guys see and feel where you are right now? Notice from where your vantage point is right now, this is curving, right? And this is curving away from you on both sides. Look what happens when I bring it to eye level. You're going to start seeing it flatten out, and then you're going to start seeing it curve upwards. The same thing happens the other way. So when I start bringing this down, you're going to see it start curving away from you, So when you're drawing that and you're thinking about it and you're thinking about how to draw people in perspective, you can really start thinking about people, depending on the eye level that they're at, like the same cylinder. So of course, if it looks like this, curving away on both ends, that means that my horizon line or my eye level is somewhere in here. So this is basically, like, again, I know that this is really simple, but this is essentially how people get those very, like, wonky perspective sort of drawings, right? This is why the perspective grid curves, depending on if you're looking at a wide angle lens, right? And you're doing curvilinear perspective, this is why, right? Because it's placing you in space and putting that horizon line somewhere in the middle. So now I'm going to be looking down at the legs. Even if you pull the arms out, you're now going to be looking down at this hand. Again, I'm exaggerating it and making it look kind of wonky on purpose. But in practice, what that'll look like, it looks something like this. Eye level is about right here on this figure. Here, my eye level might be all the way up here. This will be the vanishing point. Now it's coming up like that. Now, only now do we finally go into step 4, which is rendering, right? Where we render the anatomy. Boxes are also not a replacement for actually learning your anatomy, guys. So unless you know your anatomy pretty well, you're not going to know where everything goes. But if I was drawing this right now, I would just kind of come in like so. Now, think about this corner of this box. Again, the box doesn't really exist, but this corner does represent something. It represents that edge of your rib cage. So imagine like you're looking at somebody skinny, lean all the way back. You're going to see the corner of that bone here, and then it's going to come in. Then you're going to see the bone come back out for your pelvis. This corner is really this rib cage jutting out of the form a little bit. So you're going to see a little bump here. Again, totally dependent on how skinny someone is, how their form is obscured by their fat, their muscle, etc. Think about the contour. So again, this is kind of in the same vein as the center line. You have to think about the contour of your body and how the muscles affect that. So now I might have my obliques coming in like this. I have my lats coming in here. Now we're coming out with something that looks three-dimensional, volumetric, and more importantly, doesn't look like this, right? That's the goal.